Hi guys, Joe here, and welcome to 750 Gaming. In this mini-series we'll look at the Black Templars in 10th edition, how I rebuilt my crusade, and ultimately see how cheaply we can make a 1000 point army. Okay, so this one has been a long time coming. Apologies. In the end, I decided to serialise this project a little bit. One, so that I can actually do a Black Templars-y video that's long overdue, but secondly, to let you all into the hell that's been going on inside my headspace over the last 3 to 4 months, as I've come to grips with how the Black Templars are and aren't going to work in 10th edition. Originally, I thought that come the evolution, my Black Templars would just transfer across. Naturally, with the odd bit of tinkering here and there, the plan was for a quick update video of what I'd created as per the first video I ever made on this channel and, all the extra bits. Alas, it wasn't that simple, and it's taken far longer than I imagined. So, Black Templars Do-Over, Part 1. Let's start with that quick review of my initial creative choices and what I thought it would mean coming into 10th edition. We left off then with a 750 point Black Templars army that was a little bit bloated in places, but intentionally so. Life is busy, plastic ain't cheap, right? I'd gone Van Vets previously with Lightning Claws and Storm Shields as per the 9th edition meta. I'd kit bashed up a Smash Captain a la Thunderhammer and Storm Shield to fly in alongside them, and I'd taken some standard assault intercessors to play as my chainsword wielding crusaders, sans neophytes. I'd kit bashed a chaplain from an AOS Stormcast Secateur, because robes are robes, and then I'd lucked out on the eBay machine and got 2 Landspeeder Tornadoes for relatively cheap to do a bit of hit and run stuff further up the table. It was actually quite nicely balanced and I was relatively happy with it. Okay, so there weren't any proper Black Templars units or too many official sculpts going on, but I was content that they were thematic enough for the price. I could play a decent number of Black Templar guys for not a lot of money, and as time progressed I thought we could just fluff everything up as desired. This was my first army after getting back into 40k after 20 years away, and it was based a little bit on nostalgia more than anything else. But as I went deeper back into this hobby, I realised my tastes were changing and I was starting to much prefer the aesthetics of the Primaris Space Marines. So when 10th edition landed and those Vanguard veterans suddenly became less optimal and less exciting on the tabletop, I wasn't particularly disappointed to drop them from my lists. Time I thought to grow up and glow up this army, and well, with all the announcements and articles coming out of the Warhammer community over the last couple of months, I've kind of ended up starting this army from scratch. Let me explain. The first thing I did was to take the jump packs off those Van Vets and then whap them on those assault intercessors. I gave one of them a flamer, one of them a great big eviscerator, and one guy twin lightning claws, as per those once fluffy loadout options. And I was very excited to have this mini airborne crusader squad type thing ready to go. And they were also Primaris sized, which, worked for my sensitivities. I also beefed up my Smash Captain using a Primaris Lieutenant torso. Okay, I thought, we're starting to look good. But then came the articles. My land speeders went and flew off to the legend sheet and took the assault squad with it, and with those newly previewed and soon to be released jump pack intercessors and jump pack captains with their now limited loadouts, suddenly my newly converted Black Templars were 1, superseded and, 2, technically illegal. Ah! Alright then, onto the shelf they went. Could I have reconverted them again or played them as proxies? Sure, but at this point I was kind of done with them. I was actually really happy with the jobs I'd done on them, but I chose to cut the cord, so to speak, and as such they remain as antiques for posterity. For now. Maybe. My kids refer to all my minis as Daddy's little statues. These ones officially are. Right, Exhibit A, my hell. Oh. Anyway, after ripping apart my army, making it illegal and then retiring it, yeah, we're starting from scratch. But where to start? I debated just going all out and getting the combat patrol box. It's not actually too bad a deal for 10th edition, but as ever, when buying multi-unit boxes, you need the capital up front, even if you can get a good deal from a third-party retailer. So I decided we'd go for a piecemeal approach. I knew I would probably end up getting myself a Crusader squad proper at some point. After all, I no longer actually had the minis in place to swap in their tabletop roles, so to speak, so they're on the shopping list. But whilst we worked them into our budget and waited for delivery, I found the rest of my Stormcast Secateur torsos and began another conversion project. Turns out I had enough bits and pieces lying around to make a fluffy and fully loaded out squad of Sword Brethren, and one I even posed to proxy in as my Emperor's Champion. I was very happy with these guys. 225 points right there for pittance, considering I'd got all the Stormcast torsos on eBay for a 10 quid for 10 deal way back when. Now, if I'd got the combat patrol, I'd have got myself a marshal to lead this lot. But now that the rights of battle has been nerfed, or at least restricted, I think the Castellan, with his lethal hits and fallback and shoot and charge buffs, is actually a better choice to attach to your Crusader squad. The problem is, or rather the complete and utter heresy is, I don't particularly like that Castellan sculpt. Now, before you jump all over me, I have nothing but love for John Blanche. That bit of artwork for the 3rd edition rulebook had a lot of influence on my original entry into this hobby back in my teenage years. But that Castellan sculpt just looks a little dorky. Similar to that official Emperor's Champion sculpt. Like, wield your weapons with a bit more purpose, guys, please. You're about to purge some heretics, not just stand on parade. Anyway, we needed a Castellan, but not that one, and so after locating an old combi bolter from the bits box, I bashed up this guy too. And in this slightly more generic painting and pose and loadout, I have a versatile miniature I could list as a marshal if I ever so desired. You know, if I wanted to play combat patrol later on, maybe. And then of course the proper Primaris Crusader squad landed, and it was just about what loadout choices to choose for them. I actually really enjoy the blanket points cost for units these days, irrespective of loadout. Theoretically, of course, everyone will just be using the optimal or most devastatingly meta loadout in tourney plays. But for the casual gamer such as myself, you can just go rule of cool here, or whatever you want, and not have to worry about counting the granular points to make sure you can fit it into your total. 140 points. As long as it's legal, that's all you need to worry about. I went with 2 ranged and 2 melee builds for the neophytes for a bit of versatility. I still think it's a typo, but theoretically, with 10th edition being about weapon profiles and those neophytes being able to wield the standard Astartes chainswords in all their glory, as opposed to a more generic neophyte close combat weapon, like the neophyte firearm, the melee build on the neophytes is just as strong as the melee build on your initiates. But they haven't changed that over several nerfs, so maybe it is deliberate. Hey ho. For the initiates then, I chose 1 bolt rifle guy to make the most of the assault keywords on those rifles, and then took a Pyreblaster. And whilst I was very tempted to take 2, so very, very tempted, I took a guy with a Power Fist instead. Now, I'm not a fan necessarily of Power Fists aesthetically, but I think if you've already paid the points for it, you've got to take the big heavy punchy guy, right? And then the last 2 initiates were just a standard melee build because, assault intercessors look cool. Then we needed to do a bit more converting. Considering the pose of my Stormcast Emperor's Champion is actually quite similar to the sword brother of the Crusade Squad box art, I was going to have to kit bash some kind of slightly alternative pose here. I still prefer the sword over the axe, but after a bit of cutting and sticking, I was able to make that work, with a pistol weapon in the other hand. Your only other option here is whether you give him pyrotechnic ability or another bolt pistol. Well, considering I'd resisted going 2 pyroblasters, I went pyropistol. It's all good. So for around 40 quid, I've got myself a Crusade squad, a unit of Sword Brethren, a Castellan, and an Emperor's Champion. 420 points. And all in all, I thought that that was going to be a really good start to rebuilding my Crusade. Now, of course, that's not all there was or is to it. After all, not only are we looking for some sort of 750 point parity, I'm also looking to try and get this army up to 1,000 points as well. But this seems like a good place to stop for the moment. As ever, I love to read your comments, so if you've got any questions or suggestions or observations that I've missed, then please type away down below, and hopefully I'll see you for part 2. Thanks for watching. Let's go! As always, I just do this for fun and make these videos when I can. I don't have a regular release schedule, they just happen when they happen. So, if you want to make sure you don't miss a beat over the next few months and going forward, then hit subscribe so you can catch these when they come. If you enjoyed this or any of my other videos, then do hit that like button as it really helps boost my ego, and do come check me out on Instagram for all my hobbying updates. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next one.